Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I actually wanted to take some time out to kind of discuss, the authoring and the writing and, putting a story together, because I think that's a great place to kind of start this out. Because, I've put a lot of time. Like it's been a super fun ride, really putting together my time and, really getting myself into the indie space, because I'm starting to feel like that it's probably one of the most challenging things on the planet. I mean, if you take the indie author space and you realize that, not only do you have to write a book, which is very hard, I think there's a ton of people out there that want to actually write books, put story down, feel that they have a good story to tell, and actually start to finish, put together 75,000 words just to get that part down is difficult. And then there's all the things that come after it. There's the incredible amounts of competition. I mean, there's so many super talented writers out there. There's so many not so talented writers out there. And, that's kind of the space that we live in, where, sites like Amazon, I mean, they're kind of playing on their own right now, is they're willing to kind of take in anybody. And, I'll get back to that, because I think that is a point, that's a road that we need to cross. But I started looking at writing, what goes into it, and, what it's like to put that many words together and really craft that story. But if you think about indie, and when you're an indie, you're basically taking the place of a publishing house. So this is a huge assembly line, of a factory that's just reprinting copies of your book, and they're just loading, what feels like an unlimited budget on your book. I mean, they could put together a cover, they could put together all this ad space, they have the clout to kind of get you in front of all these people, and kind of telling your story and really exposing you, as a human being, because they want their author to be a human being. I mean, we live in a world where, psychological thrillers and just a lot of books out there kind of deal with gender ambiguous pen names, because, that's the world now. People they want to tell stories, and they can't afford to lose readership or potential readership, because the person out there doesn't want to read a psychological thriller with a woman main protagonist written in the first person if a man wrote it. And I think that's really evident with authors like A.J. Finn and Riley Sager, and I think those are probably the two most predominant names. And then you could flip it and say that fantasy didn't really want a woman author, which is why J.K. Rowling is J.K. Rowling rather than using her full name. But so now you have to take the building blocks of what it's like to put a book together, because as an indie, you have to realize that not only is all this coming out of your own pocket, I mean, you have to make this dollar stretch. And that's the biggest part of this, because you don't have that unlimited budget that these publishing houses have. You have to, it's a DIY, like do it yourself. Like that's really what it comes down to. And when I started doing this, like writing was something for me that really put my mind into focus, because I always had a wild imagination. Like my creativity was just ridiculous. And, at times all I wanted to do was like put story to paper. And it really helped me out. Like there are times in my life, and I think there's times in everybody's life, and anybody that wants to tell stories or, has a talent, they kind of leaned on their talent a little bit when life wasn't really going that way for them. And, somewhere along the lines, I think everybody wants that special talent, that side project, that hustle to kind of be the thing. And I decided, years ago that like, this is what I want. Like I want to be able to put together a story, and have this become a brand. I look up to authors like Stephen King. I look up to authors like James Patterson, Mary Kubica, Riley Sager. I mean, I've just been introduced to him recently, and he's an amazing, author. I just kind of like stormed right through his books, and that's what I want. I want that reader that can find my work and actually do that. But to do that, you have to get the story in front of them. Not only do you have to get it in front of them, you have to hook them. So when I set out on this journey and what I was looking to really accomplish, not only did you have to write that story, but now I have to start looking at what comes after that. What turns a blinking cursor and, a couple thousand words on a computer screen into a finished product ready to go into a reader's hands. And, I started doing a lot of research, and obviously like there's the general ones, there's the proofreading, there's the beta reading, there's the editing, the copy editing, developmental edits. Like then you start getting into the industry standards when it comes to pricing on some of this stuff. And, a beta read you could probably get away with it on Fiverr. Fiverr's a great, awesome, third-party freelance site. A ton of people on there that do have some really good talent. And you can assess that just by, looking at the link clicks they get, or how many, works they have, projects they have in their queue, how many people have, thought to leave positive feedback. So if you look at it, once the cover is done, then we can start the process of what it's like to put it on Amazon. And this is where some digital marketing, and some videos on content creation and content upload and, search engine optimization, like this is where having the ability in YouTube is kind of going to serve you a purpose, in having all this amazing free knowledge that's just available for you. If you just do a few clicks, and, YouTube is a really smart algorithm. So what happens is, once you start searching into search engine optimization or, digital ad marketing or something like that, YouTube is going to start prescribing new things that they want you to check out, because they want you to keep watching. Like, their viewership goes up, when you watch more, and they can generate more ad revenue. So the goal is to keep you watching as long as possible. And that's something to remember when it comes to reading, because you should know your target reader well enough to know what's going to keep them reading. And there's a lot of really good info when it comes to this, and looking it up and who you're writing for. And, there's a lot of authors that say they write for themselves, but, I've read On Writing, and Stephen King himself, he's the legend. A lot of people will agree. I don't know about everybody. Everybody hates somebody else. So it's really important when it comes to what you're trying to write, because you have to deliver this to masses, and they have no idea who you are. So this is where that marketing and a little bit of niche study and cloning, seeing who's already doing well in the space that you want to excel in, because if somebody's already doing well, that means a lot of the work was already done. And while this might be the trick of the trade when it comes to online marketing, cloning, is really what it comes down to. That's just how business excels. Business copies Coca-Cola, Pepsi. They're not really that far off the more you think about it. So you pick 5 to 10 genres, authors that are in the same space you are, whether it's horror, psychological fiction, chick lit, anything you want, whatever space you write in. You find 10 of the top authors in that space, do some Google searches, and then start to browse their pages, browse their stories. I was doing that the other day because I wanted to switch something up, and I came up with a new pen name because I wanted to try something a little bit different than what I had been doing, and part of me felt like my pen name kind of pointed to one avenue. It's just the way I felt, and as I said it over and over and over again, I felt like it just became something different than what I thought it was going to be. So what I did was I put together a new pen name. I started doing some research, and I wanted to go on a little hack on, what other people were doing in this space. So I went to a few different places, and I found this one author. And this one author amazed me, because there are so many books out by this person, but yet I can't find a picture of who they are. I feel like they have no social media presence whatsoever. And it fascinated me because, social media is one of those things that people basically tell you that if you want to put a brand together, you have to have social media presence, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, some kind of online presence has to be there for you to increase brand awareness. So now, doing a rough count, I think this person had, I counted 2 days ago when I was doing this, 46 books. To the best of my ability, that's what I recollect. It's 46 books. Blake Pierce is the author's name. So if anybody actually knows who this person is, check it out. He writes in psychological thriller, and it looks like police procedural. They actually had a great offer. I signed up to his mailing list, and that was a really big, his or her, I don't really know. We can play with the words a little bit. I signed up to their email list because I'm going to talk about them like they're two different people until I can confirm gender or not, assuming they want gender confirmed. So what I did was I signed up for their email list, and they had a few good promos going on. And one of the promos was there's 6 different series that they have out. And the first book in each series was put together in a box set, and it was free. So, of course, I downloaded it. I downloaded this thing in a heartbeat. I wanted to be a part of it. Somebody that's actually putting out that many books in a space that I'm familiar with no social media presence. I was amazed by it. This is a person that's doing exactly what I want to do. And obviously, I can't spy on what they're actually selling. I'll never be able to see their writer dashboard, and their sales or projected sales or anything like that, or what they're really making, because all the books are really priced all over the place. And I can do some royalty math, but that's not to say that their price hasn't changed. So the only thing I have to go on, I think this is really the only thing that most people have to go on when it comes to doing these clones and hacks and things like that to see what your competition is doing, is I count reviews. Like, that's something that I do for me. That's a little trick that I picked up. That's the only way to be sure. I can't be sure they didn't return the book, but I could be sure that at least that if I scroll through it, all of them say verified purchase, that at some point they downloaded this book. Again, it could be on promo, it could be for 99 cents, it could be for $10.99. I really don't know, but if they have a decent amount of reviews, that means they're getting a decent amount of readership. And, I ripped this apart. Like, I checked out the covers, and, one thing I love is, psychological thriller is pretty much associated with two things. It's women and it's dark. And the stories are usually traumatic. I mean, that's just how it goes. I mean, there's trauma that's literally built into the DNA of these stories. So I downloaded this 6 for nothing, as part of the thing. And I think it's a great thing. If you have 46 books, you give 6 away. If just one of the actual works grabs your attention, I mean, at minimum, there's 5 books in that series. Some of them go up to 15. Like, if that's the one that you like, I mean, that's great. Like, you have so much content to read, and I think that's what it comes down to is, obviously, any research that you do into indie authorship, they're going to tell you that you should play in an anchor series space, because it's very hard to convince somebody to like your main character. And the last thing you want to do is give them 1, possibly 2 books, but in the meantime, you're writing 15 other books that are all individual series. And, people like King can do that. James Patterson is probably the king of the anchor series. I mean, his Alex Cross books, I think he's at 27. His Women's Murder Club, he's about to drop number 19. Michael Bennett is at 11. His private series was 9. I mean, the anchor series is the place to go, because not only are you getting people in love with one of your characters, but you're also putting it out there at such a capacity that people are just going to eat it up. And that's what fascinated me about this person. And I haven't gotten any emails from them, and I really hope to. But I saw, on a few of their pages, because I do read book descriptions, because things like blurb and pricing are the next best thing to when it comes to, book cover, that are going to grab somebody's attention, because you have to see how vital it is. Like, that hook is synonymous. Like, it starts with the actual cover, it goes through the price, nabs on the blurb, and then that's what really pulls the reader in. Like, that's the whole hook. It's not 1, 2, or 3. Like, yeah, you might get lucky, and some people might drip through the cracks. If 10 people saw it, 4 people might do it because one of those 3 things was appealing to them. Whether it was a free book, a halfway decent blurb, a phenomenal cover, like, it might be enough. But you need to get them beyond downloading the sample, because there are people out there that understand that indie authorship, that not everything is going to be gold. It's not going to be this amazing thing that's been written. Like, not everybody, writes The Martian, or not everybody is a Blake Pierce or a Chris Fox. Like, these are Mark Dawson. These are big names when it comes to, those sets of genres. So you have to be able to deliver on all those fronts. Like, if nothing else, like, you can get away with some shoddy formatting. I've even seen people forgive typos. Like, if the story's good enough, they can look past, a mess up on 2, 2, and 2, or some comma misplacement, or if the words aren't justified and, it's not formatted tightly. But of all things, your story, the actual content that you created, the book cover, the price, the blurb, all of that needs to be synonymous, because when that hook goes in, you need to make sure it stays in, because if you start dropping additional works in that anchor series, you're going to want them to continue reading, to look forward to it. So when you launch a pre-order, so they want to sign up to your mailing list, because mailing list is huge. A mailing list is going to take away a lot of what you're going to spend money to get. Because once these people are okay with giving you their email address, it means they're okay with hearing from you. Like, yeah, you might give them something free, and they're the ones that are just going to do it to get that freebie, but you might have actually given them something that they like, and that's really awesome. Like, that's a great thing to have, is that you were able to hook them enough that they're waiting for your next work, and that's really, really awesome. Like, that's something that I think all authors would love to have. But, do some research, because it is a lot of work, and you want to make sure that work means something, and you want to make sure that the money that you're about to invest in this talent actually goes someplace. And one of the best things that you could do for yourself is really dig deep, like take a deep dive into what these other authors in your genre are doing, because a lot of them are indies. Like, yeah, they're the major ones, and you can usually tell. Like, if you scroll down and you go to about halfway on the website page, and you can see the publisher, a lot of them will say Amazon Digital Services, but if you check the hard copy version or the actual print, it'll say, independently published. Like, those are indie authors. Like, obviously you can Google some of these people, but remember, like, this one person, whoever Blake Pierce is, managed to put out 46 books. And in this day and age of 2019, I don't know if they're a man or a woman. I don't know if they're young or old. I don't know anything about them. And I think something about that actually intrigues me more. But that's the hook, is that you put out stories that I like. I like the cover. The price point I'm comfortable with, because I downloaded 6. I started reading one last night. The first scene is something brutal. And that just grabs my attention so much, because when the first scene is something wicked like that, I can't wait to see what the rest of the book is like. But you have to deliver. I mean, these first couple of chapters and the first couple of reads, like, they're everything. And some would say, like, I've read somewhere that, some people wait. Like, they'll put out 3 books in one shot, because you could play a lot with the pricing. Like, now you have 3. So if you could hook somebody with 1, it's worth the price, because I can spend some money on Facebook ads, make nothing on the first book, on the bank shot that people are going to buy the second and the third. So, definitely do some research into your genre, into your niche. Do some clone experiments, do some hack experiments, see what people are out there doing, and what you can really start to reverse engineer and replicate that's working, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, tropes are part of what goes into the genres. I mean, there are certain tropes that fantasy is usually 300,000 words. If you try to write a 300,000 word psychological thriller, like, there's only so much you can really hang a twist. Usually fantasy and sci-fi can go that far, because so much of the wordplay needs to go to, world building, language, culture, and characters. You don't really need that many characters in a psychological thriller. So it's not really against the rules to see what somebody else is doing. So check it out, do some research on Amazon, see what else everybody else is doing, see what else you can implement into what you're doing, just to make sure that your dollar stretches farther. So I'll catch you next time. I hope this is something that you valued. I'm going to try to do this once a week, and I really stay humble and positive about that, but definitely keep writing.